Today we're talking about budgeting, and I'm going to share 10 most common budgeting questions according to Google, and we're going to go through them, and I'm going to just give my opinion, my advice on each one. I've been budgeting for 7-8 years now, and it's completely changed my life. I used to live paycheck to paycheck. I've had my car repossessed, my power turned off, my student loans in default, and lived very tough lifestyle for many years. And then through budgeting and starting this YouTube channel and accountability, I've completely transformed my life. I've paid cash for cars and now live in this amazing home. And now our life is just completely different. And so much of that is because of budgeting and the mindset shift that budgeting has given us. And our net worth, my husband and I's net worth is over $500,000 now, which is just mind blowing to think about. And we're still budgeting every single month because we see the importance of it. We see the accountability that it brings to the table. We see that it helps us hit our money goals faster. And I love budgeting. So we're going to jump into the 10 most common budgeting questions. Number one is, how can I create a budget and stick to it? So creating a budget can be really overwhelming. So many people, they start budgeting and they create a budget or they buy a budget template online. Like I sell my budget templates online and you can get them for super cheap and have lifetime access to them. I'll have them linked down below, the exact budget that I still use. But they will budget for a month or so and then give up because the numbers didn't add up or they were over budget. Budgeting typically takes about 6 months, 3 to 6 months, but closer to 6 months to get into the habit of budgeting, to really learn how much you spend in each category, really learn about yourself. And okay, we're starting to get the hang of things, but so many people give up after the first month because they're over budget and this is hard and logging my purchases. It's not a habit yet. So I really recommend taking at least 6 months to really learn about yourself, learn about your budgeting method that you're choosing, and really use that to keep you going to stick to the budget. Number two is, what are the essential components of a successful budget? I really believe that the biggest thing of having a successful budget is to be tracking your purchases. So many people think that it's so mundane, it's so obnoxious at tracking all of your purchases. Like, I swipe my card so many times throughout the month. That's a lot. Yes, exactly. But if you're tracking your purchases every couple days, at the most once a week, then it only takes 5 to 10 minutes. It's really not that hard to do, and it gets you in the habit, and you can adjust throughout the month. So if you wait until the end of the month to track all your purchases, then it's going to take you forever. You're going to hate it. And you're not going to be able to adjust throughout the month. So if you are tracking your purchases every couple of days, you're able to see, oh man, we're starting to go over budget. So say we have a grocery budget of $500 for the month. We're 3 weeks in and we're already at $400. Then we got a ways to go. We still have another week left that we need to start cutting back. So if you're doing it at the beginning of the month and you're tracking every couple days, after a week or so, you can say, hey, we went over budget. Let's eat from the pantry. Let's really cut back and see what we can do to minimize our spending in that category. So you're able to adjust throughout the month as you go. Or if something unexpected comes up, you're able to adjust, maybe cut back in a different area and say, okay, we're going to skip eating out this week, but we have this other bill that we have to cover. Or, hey, you know what? We have some eating out money. Let's have a Friday pizza night and celebrate or just enjoy ourselves, and having that flexibility within the week or within the month to adjust your budget. So tracking your purchases is really big on having a successful budget. Number three is, how much should I allocate for different expense categories in my budget? This is a really good one. And honestly, doing a spending analysis. A spending analysis is really going to help you to see how much you need to put for each category. That way you can look at the last 3 to 6 months of saying, okay, we are putting this much, or we are spending this much on groceries, we're spending this much on eating out, we're spending this much on gas, and really be able to see, okay, this is what the average is. So many people are like, yeah, I think I spend like $200 a month on groceries. I don't really know. I don't really look at prices. Then when we do a spending analysis, we're like, oh, we're spending $400 this month, and then this month was $550, then this month was $375, and then this month was $425. Then you're able to take the average and say, okay, this is how much we're spending on average on groceries. Let's put that as the amount. Then we'll cut back a little bit here and there, but that way you can really see how much you're spending in each category and give yourself enough money. So many people, when they create a budget, they're like, all right, we're going to cut all this money, we're going to cut all expenses, and we're going to put all this money towards debt, and we're only going to spend $100 for groceries for a family of 6. That's not realistic. So make sure that it's realistic. You can always cut back over time, but start with real numbers. Start with numbers that feel are real within your budget and within what your family is already spending. Number 4 is, how can I save money and reduce expenses in my budget? I really recommend to not cutting back expenses drastically. A lot of times people will see that they're spending $500-$600 on groceries, maybe if it's only a family of 2 or a couple, and they're like, holy cow, we're spending so much money on food. We need to cut that back to $300. We need to cut that in half. This is way too over budget. We can't afford this. I get it, but I really recommend cutting back in little increments. That way it doesn't feel too drastic. That way you don't quit budgeting because it's too hard. Cut $25 this week. Then after you get the hang of it at that new rate, say you go from $500 a month to $475. Have it at your grocery budget, $475 for a few weeks. After you get comfortable with that and you're staying within that range, then go back, and then go back. And that way you can cut in $25 increments or $10 increments rather than just all of a sudden cutting it in half. Then you're gonna get burnt out, you're gonna quit, you're gonna be like, nope, I can't do this, budgeting is not for me. So just little increments at a time. And then also really have some hard conversations with yourself. Look at your subscriptions. That's a really big one that just adds up so quickly over time. People are like, I'm cutting cable, then we're going to switch to Hulu. Then next thing you know, they have Hulu, they have HBO Max, they have Disney Plus, they have Netflix, they have Discovery Plus, they have Peacock, they have all the different ones, and they end up spending more than they were when they cut cable. So really evaluate, okay, what do I actually really watch? And a lot of times they get those deals where they lock in that low membership rate of $7.99 a month. Then if they cancel and they rejoin, it's going to be $14.99 or $8.99 a month. So they don't want to quit because they need it. They want to stay in that low rate. But if you have all these different networks and all of these different subscriptions, chances are you're not going to be using them every month. I'd rather you cancel a couple of them that you're not really watching those shows. And then if you do decide that you want to rejoin it, you can do it down the road. And chances are you're still going to be saving money in the long run than if you were to be paying that slightly lower rate over the course of time. Number 5 is, what are some effective strategies for paying off debt while budgeting? This is a really good one. So paying off debt is one of the main reasons why people start budgeting, like myself, but then we continued to budget even after we were debt-free, and we just pay cash for things, but we still budget because that's a way that we're able to build wealth and see, okay, we have this much money that we can put towards our investments or really fun things. So I love budgeting, and a lot of people start because of debt, but then move on and continue budgeting even after debt. So there are 4 budgeting methods that I recommend to people. So the first one is the debt snowball. So you guys know that I have a video explaining all of these as well. So the debt snowball, you're going to list all of your debts from smallest to largest and say, okay, these are the debts that we have. Let's knock out the smallest one first. We'll get some momentum, and then we can get the ball rolling and then roll any extra money into the next one and the next one until they're all paid off. That one is the one that really helps to keep you motivated as you're paying off debt, because if you start at the highest balance one, you may be there for a long time versus one that's only $500 or $1,000. You can get that one out pretty quickly. The next type of budgeting method is the debt avalanche. So this is listing all of the debts in order of interest rate. So you're going to pay off the highest interest first. So if you have credit cards, you're going to pay those off first. So that way you're not paying all this crazy amounts of interest. So in order of interest rate. The next is the debt tsunami. So this one, you are going to do it in the order of the highest monthly payments. You're going to knock out the highest monthly payment, and that's going to free up the most cash flow in your budget. So if you maybe are moving or you're getting a pay cut and you're quitting your job, maybe your spouse is going to quit their job and stay home and raise the kids, then you can do that one to get rid of the ones with the highest monthly payment to free up the most cash in your budget. The next one is the one that I call the one that pisses you off. So this is one that maybe you made a really stupid decision and you bought a truck or something and you regret doing it, but it just takes you off every time you see that because you know it was a stupid decision. Or maybe you financed your furniture and it was a stupid decision. Or maybe you have a loan from your mother-in-law and she's nagging you every time she sees you, even though you set up an agreement of paying $300 a month, you're paying her $300, but she's like, why are you going out to eat all of this sudden? Why are you spending your money on this? Why are you spending your money on this? You're supposed to be paying me back. Like, I'm paying you back the agreed amount, but they're still nagging you. So just get that one out of there. Maybe you have a divorce. Maybe you have debt from a divorce and you, every time it just, gets on your nerves, so get that one out of the way. So there's different payoff methods, but like I said, I have a full video that will explain them all, and then you can choose the one that works best for you. I don't think there's a wrong one. I think it's best just to stick to one and whatever works best for you and your mindset. Number 6, how can I track and monitor my expenses to stay on budget? This is a really good one and one that people ask me a lot in my budget coaching. You don't know, I do one-on-one budget coaching, and when people are just like, logistically, how do I do this? How do I track all my purchases? Do I save my receipts? That sounds cumbersome. I don't want to save receipts. So what I personally do in my budget is we only use our cards. So right now we only use our credit cards, but back then I only used my debit card. So we only use cards. So every couple of days I'll log in to our cards and I can see each transaction and I will then transfer it. And so in my budget, I can see, okay, we are on June 8th. And so anything previous to June 8th, I've tracked. Anything after June 8th, I haven't tracked yet. That way I don't have to save receipts. Or if I do have something that I paid cash for, I'll just email myself. Like if I have valet and I paid cash for valet, I'll email myself, you know, $6 for valet on June 27th or whatever it is. So that way when I get that email, I can go and put it in. I also have my budget on Google Sheets, so that way I can even add things to my budget on my phone, which is really convenient. I can do it on my phone, I can do it on my laptop, I can do it wherever, so I don't need to be at Excel or anything like that. I love that Google Sheets is cloud-based, so you can access it anywhere, but I just log in to see everything on my phone and I log my transactions that way. Number 7, what are some common budgeting mistakes to avoid? Some common budgeting mistakes to avoid are irregular things that come up. So birthdays that come up, anniversaries, or random invites to a barbecue, or random saying, hey, we're going on this camping trip. Do you want to join? Those things that come up periodically, like, oh crap, what do we do for this? I recommend for this having maybe a sinking fund for gifts. So that way you can say, okay, whenever we need to buy a gift for someone, we can just pull it from this savings account. Sinking fund is just a fancy term for a savings account, for money set aside for one thing in particular. So you can do it for birthdays, you can do it for Christmas, you can do it for vacations or car repairs or medical. But have some money set aside. Okay, these are for unexpected expenses that come up. Some other budgeting mistakes that people have, like I said, is that they are putting too strong of goals on their budget and they're being too overly enthusiastic of how much debt they're able to pay off in a month, or how much they're able to save, or how many expenses they're able to cut, and they get too excited in the beginning and then they get burnt out because it didn't happen. So that's why I say start small, cut back a little bit here and there, but you're gonna make huge progress at the end. Another tip is to finalize your budget at the end of the month. So many people, they'll say, oh, I have $300 left at the end of the month. That's great. I'm just going to leave that. It's going to be a buffer. I did good. I have money left over at the end of the month. No, no, no. You want to make sure if you have any money left over at the end of the month, put that towards your goal. If you're paying off debt, put that towards your debt. Make an extra debt payment. I used to make debt payments at the end of the month for $3.27 if I had that left over at the end of my budget. And that just went straight to principal. Or maybe it's going to a savings that you're saving for something. You're saving for a new car. You're saving for a vacation. You're saving to build up your emergency fund. Transfer that to savings. Transfer to your CIT bank account. Or maybe it's going to your investments. Maybe you're building up your index funds, your retirement. Transfer it. Whatever goal you're working on, finalize it. Any money left over, put it to that goal. You want your budget to be 0 at the end of the month. That's the ultimate goal. Another mistake that people make with budgeting is they're not including their partner or their spouse. So they're all in it. Now, I get it if your spouse or partner isn't on board, but still include them in the conversation. Still include them being like, hey, this is the budget that I created. What do you think about it? Or, hey, what do you think about we do this with the extra money that we have? We have $400 left over this month. What would you like to do with it? What would you like to see? This is what I'm thinking. What do you think? So have them involved in that conversation. And as you're hitting your goals, as you're making progress, they're going to get more and more involved. And also have goals that you each individually have, and then have goals together. So you have your goals that you're working towards. They have their goals that they're working towards. Maybe they want a boat one day and you want to have a little fund for them where they're putting $25 a month for the boat fund. That's great. They're happy. Then have goals together. Maybe a goal together is pay off your mortgage early or have $1 million in retirement, whatever it is, but have those individual goals and then goals together as well. Number 8 is how often should I review and adjust my budget? This is a really good one. So I recommend, like I said, reviewing and adjusting your budget every few days, at the most once a week. So that way you can change it up and make progress as you go, or if you need to adjust something, you're going over budget or something random comes up, you can make adjustments. So I would say probably once a week. Number 9, what are the benefits of using budgeting tools or apps? I love Excel. You guys know that Excel with Google Sheets. I love how customizable it is. I love that if something comes up, I can just add a row or add a column and I can just tweak it as I need to. I am an Excel nerd, but I've made my spreadsheet so that way the formulas are all pre-populated for you and you can really just go in there and add your numbers and it's all done for you. That's why I love this Excel spreadsheet that I've created for you guys. But if that's not for you, maybe you want to try an app. Rocket Money is also a really great app. I'll have them linked for you down below in the description, but that's a great budgeting tool that you can use. So if apps are better for you, or if you want a printable and using a just printable blank page, then you can do that as well. There's also different types of budgeting. So there's budgeting by paycheck, there's monthly budget, there's the 50-30-20 rule of budgeting. There's different methods that you can do with budgeting as well. So it's totally customizable depending on what works best for you and your brain. That's going to be the best thing for you. Number 10, how can I start budgeting when I have an irregular income or fluctuating expenses? This is one that I get asked all the time. I actually have a full video and spreadsheet on irregular incomes. So if you work on commission or if you work your bartender working on tips, then you can totally still budget. And I recommend figuring out the minimum that you would be making in a month. So maybe you could make as much as $5,000 a month, but on average, you're making about $3,000. Do your budget at $3,000. Then also you want to come up with your bare minimum expenses that you have to pay. So these are the bare minimum ones that we have to pay. We have to pay our rent or mortgage or insurance. We have to pay food bill. We have to do these things. These are bare minimums. Then if we do have a higher month, these are what we want to put that extra money towards. So we want to put extra towards debt. We want to put extra towards savings. We want to put maybe extra in the eating out category or extra in the groceries and get some nicer groceries. So you're going to have your bare minimum that you're making, your bare minimum bills, and then also what you would do if you have a higher income month. So that way you know ahead of time, you already have it planned out. That way if you get this windfall of money or you have a really great month or a bonus comes in, then you're not like, we're going to go on vacation, we're going to buy a new car. No, it's already decided for you. So that way you know ahead of time, this is what we're spending the money on. So those are the 10 budgeting questions. Let me know down in the comments what questions you have about budgeting. I would love to answer your questions as well. Let's keep the conversation going. If you want to know some budgets around the world where I review your budgets and I create Excel spreadsheets that are really fun, check out this playlist here. And if you want to know about irregular expenses and how to budget for them, a full video breakdown, check out this video here.